Where today we are going to be going over our power rankings for week 5 for the 2024 NFL season. Before we get into these rankings, make sure, of course, you leave a like on the video, comment down below what you agree with and what you disagree with, and also please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like 90-something% of you guys, people who watch these videos, are not subscribed. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button. It helps a lot. And it's just a simple click. You don't have to turn the notification bell if you don't want to. Just a subscription would help out a lot. Without further ado, let's get into these power rankings. So the first group we have is the Patriots at 32, the Jags at 31, the Dolphins at 30, the Titans at 29, Panthers at 28, the Giants at 27, and the Browns at 26. So starting off with this bottom three here, it was between the Dolphins, Jags, and Patriots. Now, the reason I didn't put the Jags at 32, despite them not having a win, while the Patriots do have a win, I just feel like the Patriots haven't really shown anything. At least the Jags almost beat the Texans this week. They should have beat the Texans this week. They could have beat the Dolphins early in the year. Like, at least the Jags have shown, outside of the Patriots beating the Bengals, which they beat the Bengals at the beginning of the year, the Patriots haven't shown me as much as the Jags overall, but it's really close. It could be 50-50. And then the Dolphins at 30, they just haven't looked good. I know they lost to 32. That's part of it. They were 17 going into this week, but they lost to 32. They didn't do anything. I normally wasn't going to lower them this much, but I feel like they just have to be at this point now. If Tua comes back soon and they start to play like themselves again, then maybe they can climb back up the rankings. But they just haven't looked good. And the Titans, who were 32 originally, I decided I have to put them above the Dolphins. They beat them. So I put the Titans at 29. Panthers and Giants stay at 28 and 27. The Giants have... Daniel Jones has not even been that bad this season. Malik Neighbors has been awesome. The defense is slowly picking it up. They were in a competitive game versus the Cowboys, so I didn't want to punish them too much for losing. Panthers were in a competitive game versus the Bengals, so I didn't want to punish them too much for losing. And then the Browns at 26. They lose to the Raiders. And again, they just haven't looked good, so I have them at 26. Next group, we have the Raiders at 25, the Rams at 24, the Bears at 23, the Broncos at 22, Cardinals at 21, the Chargers at 20, and the Colts at 19. Now, the Raiders at 25, I put them over the Browns first thing because they beat them this week. The whole, you're above them because you beat them is more of, the most recent week. Like, some things will end up changing where this team didn't beat them, but they're still above them, but it's more for the more recent week. Raiders, I thought they've played well. They obviously had the great win at Baltimore. They did have the blowout loss to the Panthers at home, but they bounced back. Now, who knows what happens with Devontae Adams, as he's just requested a trade as I'm recording this video. But as of now, they haven't played great football, but I also don't think they've played that bad at football either. And I think they're just above the teams below them, especially the Browns, because they beat the Browns. So then at 24, I have the Rams, then followed by the Bears at 23. Bears coming off a very impressive win versus the Rams, so I thought I'd give them the spot over them. The Rams just haven't looked great. They did have that great win over the Niners, and obviously it is due to injuries. Like, you don't have Puka, you don't have Cooper Kupp. You're pretty much just relying on Matt Stafford and Kyron Williams to carry the offense. So I'm sure when they get healthy, which they hopefully do, they'll pick it up again. But for now, they haven't played great, so I have them at 24. Bears, I mentioned, at 23. They had a great game win over the Rams. And then the Broncos coming off back-to-back wins, first at Tampa Bay, which is a very impressive win, and then a sloppy win over the Jets in the rain. Their defense has played very good. Pat Surtain probably is the best corner in football right now. I don't even know if that's an argument. He just shuts down any receiver he goes up against. And then at 21, I have the Cardinals. They are coming off of that one loss to Washington, and then the loss to, that loss to Washington, the blowout loss too. But Washington's really good, so I didn't want to lower them too much. I still think, based on what they showed early in the year, that they're better than teams like the Broncos, the Bears, the Rams, and the Raiders. But I don't think they're quite as good as the next two teams, and the Colts and the Chargers. Colts coming off of a solid win over Pittsburgh. They were up big late with Joe Flacco coming in. So they were really good at the beginning, and then kind of stalled out there, and they almost lost to the Steelers, but they got a win, so I had to reward them. And the Chargers, they lost last week, but they lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the number one team. It didn't seem like it was controversial, but who knows. So I think the Chargers are good at 20, and the Colts then are at 19. Next, we have the Bengals at 18, the Jets at 17, the Steelers at 16, and the Saints at 15. First, the Bengals at 18. I know they beat number 28, so how do they go up 5 spots? One, they were very good offensively. Their defense was still not good, but I would still take the Bengals over the Colts, the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Broncos, the Bears, and the Rams, at least the current state of the Rams. And they might have showed that they could be back. They could have gotten their groove back. We'll see if they are doing their usual lose 2 to 3 games to start the season and then win 10 of the next 12 or something. So I think the Bengals play very good, and they could very well be back. Jets at 17 lose an ugly one to the Broncos, who were 25 going into this week. So I moved them down to 17, but I still think that defense is really good. Rodgers has still had good games that I don't want to lower them too much. And then the Steelers and Saints at 16 and 15. Saints coming off of a disappointing loss to the Falcons. Not because the Falcons are bad. I just feel like they didn't really, don't know how to explain it, but they didn't really show up. Maybe they kind of came out. They were kind of slow towards the end there. And then the Steelers coming off of a loss to the Colts. They did make it interesting at the end, and they're still 3-1. But I just think the teams above them are slightly better, at least based on recent weeks, but they're still in the top 16. Next group is the Commanders at 14, the Seahawks at 13, Falcons at 12, the Cowboys at 11, the Eagles at 10, and the Packers at 9. Commanders, impressive start. I've seen a lot of people putting them in their top 5 teams. They've played great, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there yet. The reason I have them at 14 is, one, they beat number 19. It's not like they beat the Cardinals. They beat an okay football team. They didn't beat like the Texans or the Chiefs or anything. So I didn't want to go and get them up too crazy, but they have played well, and I wanted to give them respect with that big jump, 7 spots from 21 to now 14. Seahawks at 13. I know they're coming off a loss to Detroit, but Geno Smith has played great throughout the whole season. Their defense outside of that Lions game has played great. I know they haven't played any real competition. They finally played competition, and they lose by 2 scores. But I still like the Seahawks team. So I have them at 13. Falcons at 12. I definitely wanted to have them over the Saints. And they played pretty decent, so I gave them the spot. It's honestly, with them, the Cowboys, Seahawks, and Commanders, it could go all types of directions. Cowboys at 11. I know they beat the Giants, and I know it wasn't a pretty win, but I feel like you got to give them the respect for winning. And then the Eagles at 10, they're coming off of a bad loss to Tampa Bay. I know Tampa Bay is a good team, but I don't think they're in that. With the injuries to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, I don't think they're in that second tier of teams yet, the contenders. You got like the Super Bowl contenders, and then you got the playoff contenders, and then you got the teams right outside of that. I think with the current state of the Eagles, they're right outside that. When they're fully healthy, you definitely could get them in that playoff, maybe Super Bowl contending spot. But right now, I think they're just outside that with the injuries. Packers at 9 as well. Their defense, who has turning the ball, has been turnover machines, forcing the ball, especially Xavier McKinney, did not show up against MVP candidate Sam Darnold. They did almost make a comeback though. Jordan Love, 4 touchdowns, I believe, 3 interceptions. He was all over the place, good and bad. But overall, the Packers team is still very good to me, in my opinion. So I have them at 9. Next is sort of that upper echelon of playoff contenders. We have the Bucs at 8, Texans at 7, Bills at 6, Vikings at 5. Playoff contenders are teams that I think will easily make the playoffs and could win a game or two, pull off an upset in the first round, whatever. Bucs at 8, very impressive win over the Eagles. I know they had that loss to the Broncos, but they also beat the Lions in Detroit. They had very good wins. Texans at 7. I didn't want to move them up too high because they barely beat the Jags, who are the only team left without a win. So I didn't want to give them too much sort of credit for that win because they almost lost. But I still wanted to give them an increase because they still did win. And then I had the Bills at 6. They were number 2 going into this week, and then they play Baltimore on Sunday night, and they get absolutely blown out by Baltimore. Could not stop Derrick Henry, and that's why I have the Vikings right over them, because the Vikings have beat some good teams. They beat the Packers, they beat the Texans, they beat the Niners. Those are 3 playoff teams last year. 3 playoff teams who got a playoff win last year, and they beat them all. So the Vikings have obviously very impressed everyone, including Sam Darnold. So I thought I'd give them a spot over the Texans because they beat the Texans, and then over the Bills because the Bills are coming off of a tough loss. And then the upper tier of playoff contenders, even higher than this tier, maybe even Super Bowl contenders. We got the Niners at 4, the Ravens at 3, the Lions at 2, and the Chiefs at 1. Starting off with the Chiefs at 1. I've seen people put them down 1. They put like the Vikings over them or teams like that, but I just don't think you can punish a team for winning when they're number 1. Lions at 2, very impressive win over Seattle at home. Their offense looked great. Jared Goff, 18 for 18, not a single incompletion. Ravens at 3, another team coming off of a very impressive home win over a good team, a better team than the Lions played, but great win for Baltimore. And then the San Francisco 49ers at 4. It was pretty much between the Lions, Ravens, and Niners, and I just think the Lions and Ravens, not only did they beat better teams than the Niners did, but I think they just have overall played just slightly better than the Niners. But Niners are still up there in that Super Bowl contending tier. But this is my power rankings. The biggest risers of the week were the Washington Commanders, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Cincinnati Bengals. And then the biggest fallers were the Eagles, Saints, Steelers, Rams, and Dolphins. As usual, that will conclude our NFL Week 5 power rankings. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Make sure you like the video. And again, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.